Hello, everyone. Welcome to Small Biz Tips. So, about 3, 4 years ago, right around the pandemic, or a little after, I was online and I kept seeing this guy's post. I'm like, who is this? I saw his YouTube channel. He was traveling. I was so amazed by everything he had going on and the gems that he was sharing online that I just started to watch him. I spent years watching you, man. So and then I reached out and said, I gotta have him on a pod. So Kimanzi, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate you. So before we get into all these amazing things you got going on, who is Kimanzi?
A father, at this point, a grandfather, an
Congrats.
entrepreneur, a world traveler, a writer,
Hmm. Wow, that's
a
pretty
little bit of
amazing.
everything.
I love it. I love it. So I want to dive into your origin story. I was watching a video a while back. You used to deliver bread. Is that right?
Yeah, I had my first business, first foray into entrepreneurship was a vacation relief service. And
Hmm.
basically, what we would do is there's a bread up in the north of the United States called brownberry. It's called ore wheat in some other parts of the country. And the people that deliver that bread are independent contractors. So since they're independent contractors, they can't like go on vacation and somebody cover their route. They
Mm.
have to figure that out all on their own. So I had a business that would run vacation routes for these independent contractors, and yeah, we'd be delivering bread, but our business was a vacation relief service for independent vendors.
Nice, nice, nice. So how'd you even get to start that business? Like when did, entrepreneurship became something you wanted to look into?
Yeah, when I was 18, I was working for Sara Lee. I was delivering bread, and I would always see these guys also delivering bread, but they weren't wearing a uniform. And so it
Mm.
just made me curious. And so I asked one of them, like, why don't you guys have to wear a uniform? And we do. And he said, we're independent vendors. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, the company gives us 20% of all of our sales, but we're responsible for our own equipment, our own billing, all of that stuff.
Mm.
And I'm like, cool. And then the guy was like, the only problem is we don't have anybody to cover our routes when we go on vacation. And since we invested $250,000 into the franchise, we're not just going to trust any kid off the street to my $250,000 business. Because
Mm.
if they go on vacation in France or Paris or whatever, like, and the person doesn't show up, they could lose their business, right? The bread has to be delivered, their territory
Yeah.
has to be covered. He's like, we just need somebody trustworthy. And so I thought about this for like a couple of weeks, and I went back and said, hey, if you train me on this and make the introductions, I'll do your route for free. And he's like, bet. So he trained me. He made the introductions. I put out a little handwritten calendar in their warehouse, and I had a full schedule for 2 years. And so with that lined up, I went and I quit my job at Sara Lee, gave them 2 weeks, and that was
Mm.
how I got into my first business.
Wow. It's amazing you actually thought, because a lot of people would just stop that first conversation, say, okay, that's cool. But you went back, thought about it, and realized, okay, this is their pain point, and I can actually want to do that. Have you always had that mindset?
I think I always, I don't know that I would say I've always had that mindset, but as an adult, or even better yet, as a writer, one of the
Mm.
things that you are is observant. You observe things. And
Mm.
so I've always been observant and always kind of see how things moved. But that to me just was a clear opportunity. And on top of that, I wanted freedom. I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to have to wear this uniform. I didn't want to have to uh, worry about my job.
Mm.
And so for me, it just was like a big red banner. I was like, come here.
I love it. You mentioned you're a writer. How long have you been a writer? What was that first writing gig? Because we hear a lot of people are writers, but sometimes it's like it's more like a hobby, not an actual business. But you seem to have made it a business.
Yeah, for a long time, it was just a dream and a hobby. I
Hmm.
got my first. I used to get books from my grandfather when we were younger, me and my brother, and we never appreciated those books. Like we're like, on a Lego or a car or whatever. A book just was didn't seem like a great gift. But then when I was 10, I actually read one of the books, and it was called The Charm School, and it was
Mm.
about Russian KGB agents that were trained to be Americans and infiltrate America. It was a really exciting book for a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And at the end of that book, there's this place called the Charm School where they're training these KGB agents, and the government knows about it, U.S. government knows about it, State Department, all this stuff. They know about it, right? Like, I mean, with technology, they know about it. But the question is what to do about it. So they're like, one of the CIA agents in charge creates a plan where they're going to go and rescue one of the top military officers being held there
Wow.
because in the charm school they have American POWs that were training the KGB agents to be Americans. So Russia did a swap with Vietnam. They got POWs in there training these KGB agents to be Americans. So they made this plan where they're going to rescue the top guy, and then they're going to put sleeping gas on the camp, and they're going to come back and rescue everybody. So the top guy's out. He's in a helicopter, and he's like, "Okay, when are the other helicopters coming to rescue everybody?" The CIA guy's like, that wasn't sleeping gas, it was a nerve agent. We just killed all of them.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, at 10 years old, like my mind couldn't comprehend, like, how could you do that? Like, how could, and, I mean, my adult self understands that's exactly what would happen, right? Like, instead
Yeah.
of making this a public incident and a public, big outcry with Russia, yada, yada, yada. But anyways, the way that I felt, I'm like, I want to make other people feel like this, like telling
Mm.
stories. And that's what, after that, like, I just went to the races writing. Like, I was writing poems, I was writing books, I was writing
Wow.
music, I was writing girls' love notes. And, like when I was 12 years old, they were like, one of the people in my elementary school, she said that I wrote her a love note that was 12 pages front and back.
Oh my God.
But
Oh
it
man.
never became something that I made a living from, not until I
Mhm.
was a long time into adulthood, like in 2012. Like I was in my 30s before
Mm.
I ever realized that I could make money off of this thing.
Wow, that's amazing. Now I'm curious, right? So is it what ended up happening? Did you close down the delivery bread business and then started writing, or what was that shift?
So what happened was when I was delivering bread, where it all came together was I discovered podcast. As I was delivering bread at 5 a.m., I was kind of bored and I had heard something about podcast. And I'm not like, I wasn't technically literate, but I'm like, I can listen to this thing on my phone. Why not? And the first podcast that I discovered was Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. And he
That's
started
one.
talking about, yeah, making money online. And I was an old school guy. Like I had a physical business, right? A physical one. I was not an online guy. So I thought at first what he was saying was kind of a scam. And then as I listened to him more, I'm like, this is making a lot of sense. And wouldn't it make more sense to make money with my mind and not my body?
Mm,
And that's what appealed to
mm,
me the most. And so I listened to him probably for like 6 months and just
mm-hmm.
hearing what he had to say. And that's when he talked about his lead magnet, or if he's opted in for his email list, he
Yeah.
had a little guide that will teach you how to create an ebook. So I
Mm-hmm.
downloaded that lead magnet. I saw the process of creating an ebook. And so as you know, I had been writing all this stuff. I took some of the scribblings that I had, and that became my first ebook. I
Wow.
wanted to talk about what the average everyday working person went through. So like the working man. And the book was called Tales of the Everyday Working Man and Woman. And it's just about what we went through. And I used this free guide, put that book out there, and that's what got me into this whole world of online business and opportunities. Now, the book
That's
didn't sell because I didn't have an audience. And
mm,
me being observant, I think I told you writers are observant.
yeah.
I sat back and I'm like, looked at who's successful and who's not successful online. And the one component of every successful person was they had a
Mm-hmm.
following, they had an audience, they had people that wanted to hear from them and buy their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if I'm going to be successful, I need to build an audience. It's not the funnel, it's not the book, it's not the
Yes.
whatever, it's having somebody to talk to. So I spent 6 months building my audience. And for me, the simplest way that I saw to do that was leveraging other people's audiences. If somebody
Mm,
already had an audience, let me leverage that. And so back then for me, it was guest posting. There were a lot of blogs that had a very captive audience. I could write an article for their blog. I can get links back to my own website and my book. And so that's what I did. I sent out 100 pitches in 4 months
Wow.
for a guest post, and I got published on 80 different blogs in 2013. And that's how I got my first 5,000 email subscribers. I got people buying books. And so by the end of 2013, I had an online business that was doing $5,000 a month. And it was at that point that I sold the bread business vacation relief service.
Congrats. Wow, congratulations. You just said something that a lot of people needed to hear, building that audience. Now, you did that in 2013, right? Now in 2024, how would you do it now?
I would do it the same way. If you don't have an
No?
audience, I would leverage large audiences. Now, I wouldn't do it with blogs because blogs
Mm-hmm.
are just not available like that. I would get interviewed on podcasts if I had something to
Mm-hmm.
say in a story. But more so, I would do what I do now, which is write articles for large publications. So when I say large publications, I mean Forbes, Business
Yeah.
Insider, CNBC, stuff like that. And the reason being is because now in 2024,
Yeah.
we've gone through a very interesting time where in media, there's been mass layoffs. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
something like 1,000 different journalists, editors that worked for these media outlets got laid off, which
Yeah.
creates a vacuum because all those people created content for these media outlets. And guess what? They still need content. So instead of the staff, which they had to pay 401k and FICA and health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff, they bring in freelancers or outside
Mm-hmm.
contributors that they only have to pay for one thing. They only have to pay for the article. They don't have to pay them health insurance so it's more cost effective for them. So as we stand here now, any publication you could think of, Oprah Daily, Parents, Business Insider, Fast Company, anyone that you can name, they are actively on the hunt for content. So my little blogging strategy was really good because it was targeted and there was some big blogs. But
Yeah.
nothing competes with a place like Business Insider that gets 200 million readers every single month. When you
Mm.
publish an article on there, it is not hard to build your email list, to build your audience. And then the best part of all of that, which I did not have back then, is all of these media outlets, they will pay you for the articles. And when I say
Mm.
articles, I don't just mean written because everything now is multimedia focused, right?
Yeah.
So they'll pay you for audio and video. So if I were to do it now, starting now, I would skip everything that I've ever done. I would pitch articles to these publications. And the good news is, somebody right now is thinking, well, I don't have the social proof or the credibility or the
Yeah.
connections, right?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely wrong because the only thing that those publications care about is the potential article that you can contribute to the publication. So, what is the article about that their readers would want to read? They don't care about who you know. They don't care that you're on stage with Les Brown. They don't care that you were published, in Columbia University's blog. They
Mm.
don't care about anything. You could literally send a pitch that says, "Hi, my name is Kimanzi. I'm an entrepreneur and writer. Here's some potential articles I could write for Business Insider." And you give them a snippet, a headline, and a paragraph that describes what the article would be about. And if that article is interesting, you could be accepted as a contributor to Business Insider today, like within an hour.
Wow.
You could be accepted if the article is interesting, and they're going to pay you for that. So that's what I would do if I was starting over.
That you just that was that was a value bomb. Like, wow, that was amazing. I have a follow-up questions to that,
Mhm.
right? So some people here that are entrepreneurs are like, holy crap, I know how to write, I know how to do podcasts, I'm really good content creator. Who do I talk to? Is this something that can come to you and you can help them? Like, what would be the next step for them to kind of like figure out who in this publication they need to reach out to pitch themselves?
Yeah, it's very easy. You would reach out to the editor that's in charge of the section to where your article would fit. So if
Mm,
you did wellness, you'd pitch the wellness editor. If you did
gotcha.
marketing, you'd pitch the marketing editor. And guess what? Those people are all listed on their staff page on their publications. You go to Business
Yeah.
Insider, you're going to find their staff, right? If you're not sure how to find it, there's this really nifty tool called Google. And you could go on there and you could say something like Business Insider editors. And guess what Google's going to do? It's going to pull up the page with all their editors, right?
I love it.
So this nifty tools. And 9 times out of 10, you don't have to worry about finding their contact information. It's going to be on the website. You have to remember these are news outlets, right?
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, they're media, but they're also news. They don't want to miss something good. So they do not make it hard to contact them. They make it very easy to contact them. Now, will they respond? That's another story entirely, right? It depends on how good what your pitching is.
Yeah.
And if you wanted a like a 201, like an advanced strategy for this that I'll give your listeners, if you're on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, right, you can go into the search bar and you could search the hashtag journo, so JOURNO request, and you're going to see editors that are looking for people to write articles, and you could make $10,000 just going on X and looking for all of them. And these are editors and staff at publications that are like, I need this. I need somebody to write an article about finance. I need somebody to write an article about XYZ. And they're going to say, here's my contact information. Contact me. And then there's others that say, here's my Google Doc. Here's the stories that I'm looking for. Can you fulfill any of these stories? They don't make this hard. Now, the hard part is crafting the type of article that the publication is going to want to accept. That's the hard part of this process.
Wow. Wow. You just gave a $10,000 game right there. I love it. I want to go a little bit further, because not only you're able to do this with media, but it seems that you're doing a lot of work with corporate, and a lot of, especially consultants, are trying to pierce that corporate veil, and it's been a challenge for them. Like, tell us more about some of the stuff you got going on now with corporate.
Yeah, so corporate consulting was a natural byproduct of the exposure from the publications. So my journey went from a physical business to an online business. And then when I was building the online business, I was leveraging other people's audiences, which started a blog and it went to publications. As I was writing articles for Fast Company and Business Insider, guess who reads those publications? Corporate executives. So I would, and by the way, I've been writing articles for publications since 2012. So I want to put that caveat there. And so after having thousands of articles published, what ended up happening was corporate executives were like, "Hey, I liked what you're saying about the entrepreneurial mindset. We'd be interested in a training for this for our team." And at first I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I have zero desire for corporate. I didn't go to college. I'm a high school dropout. I didn't go to college. I don't have any of that education. I don't know any of that world, right? And the corporate world just seemed very stuffy to me. And so I said no. But after years of being online, I started getting frustrated with how hard sometimes it can be to convince somebody to spend money with you. So I have these courses, I have this coaching, it's getting great results, right? But people are like, well, somebody will drop $200 on a steak at a restaurant, or they'll spend it on, Steam cards or whatever their thing is. But investing in yourself in education for $200, that's a big investment, right? I need to think about that one. Like, I need to. And so I got frustrated with that world. And I'm like, you know what? If these corporations are going to pay me more and I have to do less selling, why not give them a shot? So I started responding. I said, okay, let's have a conversation about this. And I was in Milwaukee at the time, where I was born and raised. And there were a lot of companies there that were like, we love what you're saying. And so I met with these decision makers in person. It wouldn't work that way now, but this was, 2013. So we had coffee and I'm like, what would I have to do? They're like, well, it'd be a training on the entrepreneurial mindset, however long you do it. And we pay you, $10,000 for the training. And I'm like, what else do I have to do? They're like, it's one training. And I'm like, no, but do you need coaching after that? Do you need a community? They're like, no, we're paying you for the training. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a very different world here. And that's how I got the corporate bug. And so I would do these trainings. They were one-off. They would pay me a great fee. There was no ongoing things that I had to fulfill. And then the very first major one that I did for Morgan Stanley, and this would, after been doing like a lot of little ones, after having an opportunity with Morgan Stanley, they're like, we love the training that you did. We'd like to send you to our offices in Australia. And I'm like, what?
What?
They're like, yeah, we'd like you to go to our offices in Australia and give the same training. And to make a long story short, I did a training on national mindset that I
Mhm.
probably traveled to, I couldn't even tell you how many countries, maybe 30, 40 countries, where
Wow,
I was just doing trainings for the same company, just in their different offices.
that's
And
amazing.
when I got the opportunity to travel internationally, have them cover the expenses, I don't have ongoing commitments. That's really where I leaned into corporate consulting, and I'm like, yeah, this entrepreneurial world, online world, forget you. I'm gonna go make some money doing this. And then that opened up this whole avenue of not only training, but then having the ability to license courses to corporations
Mhm.
where they would pay
Mhm.
per license per employee per year, and then I could make passive income. And I mean, that's, pretty much that's been my journey the last since 2012. And that's a lot of what I do now.
Wow, it's crazy because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, we gotta have you come back for round two.
Mhm.
Just talk about that corporate training and licensing piece because I think that's a revenue stream a lot of entrepreneurs are missing out on. So, so
Yeah, yeah. When I come back and we're gonna do video, I just wasn't in a position to do video today for the listeners. When I come back and we do video, I also, since this is going to be a video, I can screen share and actually show you step by step how to
let's
do, like, how to
go.
book your first corporate gig.
Wow, this is amazing. So, Kimanzi, to kind of wrap things up, what is that one small tip you would share with anybody who is a business owner, entrepreneur? You've been doing this for like 20 years. What is that one tip that really helps you that you could share with our audience?
I think no matter what, having an audience is always going to continue to build your business and opening the doors to opportunities. So my tip is build your audience, but leverage large audiences. So
Mhm.
Tim Ferriss, or he didn't invent this, but he talks about like 20% strategies that give you 80% of the results, right? The
Mhm.
20% things you do. For me, and what I recommend for any business owner here, it's leveraging large publications. Forbes, Business Insider, Fast Company, any of these large publications. Not only will you get exposure to hundreds of millions of their readers, they're going to
Mhm.
pay you for the articles. And when I say pay you, you could be a columnist for a place like Forbes, write articles there, and make $10,000, $15,000 a month. So I'm not talking about chump change. I'm like, there's real money there.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
you can get paid, you can build your audience, you can sell books, products, courses, and you can get exposure to the people that make corporate buying decisions or that are conference organizers. So if you want one strategy that's going to bring you speaking gigs, consulting gigs, pay you, and build your business and audience, it's large publications. And if you
Mm.
take away nothing from what I said today, go on Twitter, go on X, type in the hashtag journal request, and I promise you, you're going to see your first 20 or so publications and editors that are like, I need you coverage on XYZ. And that could be your door. And they're going to give you their contact information. They're going to tell you exactly what they're looking for. And then you just get in your email and say, hey, I saw your thing on X. This is, what I can contribute to your publication. And really what they're looking for is it's a headline and it's a paragraph describing what the article will be about. And if you can nail that piece, they've already given you all the clues because in that description, that call for submissions, they've already given you all the clues. You just have to respond and say, hey, here's what I can contribute. And when you can master that, you can be accepted into these publications, and it opens the door for so many other opportunities.
How do people get in touch with you, man? If they want to learn from you, like what's the best way to reach you?
Go to Ubora Advisory. So that'd be Ubora
Mhm.
advisory.com. And you'll see free guides on there and all this information that we talked about here in blog posts and whatnot.
Wow. Guys, check out Kimanzi. I'm telling you, he's a gem full of knowledge. Just implement what he said. That's all I gotta say. Just implement. Just start executing. Thank you for coming in, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you so for having me, brother. I hope this brought value.